Okay, so we read chapter 2, text number 13. And you'll be on the board, and you can also find it in the book. So the first step will be to sing the Sanskrit together in unison, and then we'll say the English in unison, and then we'll go to the next steps. So in this way we'll do a little recitation, little shloka, and then we'll study. So the verse goes as follows. Chapter 2, text 13. The embodied soul continually passes in this body and waits to move to old age. The soul simply passes into another body of death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Text 14. Non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress, and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance Best among men, Arjuna. The person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in flow is certainly eligible for liberation. Text 16. Asato Vidyate Bhavo. Filter the purports. Filter out the purports. Nasato Vidyate Bhavo. Nahavo Vidyate Sata. Upayor Kavidrishwantas. Vananyo Sarvanharshini. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent material body there is no endurance, and of the eternal soul, the soul, there is no change. This the seers have concluded by studying the nature of both. Text 17. That which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy the imperishable soul. Text 18. Antavanta Kinyadeha Yukya Sukha Sharirana Nashamo Pradevista Tasmadu Tasamarika. The material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight for ascendance of God. Text 19. Yedanam Nityanam Kalam Yashanam Nityanam Bhavatam Bhavatam Neither he who thinks the living entity is slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge. For the self slayer is not, nor the slave. Text 20. For the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being. He does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain, but the body is slain. Text 20. How can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone, or cause anyone to kill it? Text 22. Awesome. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. Text 23, final text. have enough air over there? Is that too loud? You can hear that? Okay, so text 13, we'll go back and now we'll start kind of studying the third words. So, this is a famous verse. Let's read the translation. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The shorter person does not bewildered by such a change. Now this will further. Since every living entity is an individual soul, each is changing his body every moment, manifesting sometimes as a child, sometimes as a youth, and sometimes as an old man. Yet the same spirit soul is there, does not undergo any change. This individual soul finally changes the body at death and transmigrates to another body. And since it is sure to have another body in the next birth, either material or spiritual, there was no cause for lamentation by our Arjuna. On account of death, neither for Vishnu nor for Drona, for whom he was so much concerned. Rather, he should rejoice for their changing bodies from old to new ones, thereby rejuvenating their energy. Such changes of body account for varieties of enjoyment or suffering, according to one's work. So Vishnu and Drona, being noble souls, were surely going to have spiritual bodies in the next life, or at least life in heavenly bodies for superior enjoyment of material existence. So, in either case, there is no cause of limitation. So this is a very famous example that Krishna gives. We're in the scientific. People are very much scientifically minded, but we can actually see that logic and reason and science, inference, all these things are actually perfected in Krishna. And he himself is giving analogies from the material world, which are scientifically perceivable, by which we can understand spiritual concepts. Now, this analogy has been given by Krishna, and we can see it happening. So, she may not be able to, but maybe she will. She can point to her head. Or we can point in a few years. The idea is, even a child from a certain stage understand this verse. Very practical. So there's a boy, and one time Prabhupada came to the class of children, and they wanted him to give a lecture. And Prabhupada, he agreed, but he did it a little differently. And he said, okay, which of you is the smart boy? Who's the nerd here? And they said, oh, it's Jimmy. He's the smart one. And so he said, okay, Jimmy, come here to the front. And he said, okay, now point to your arm. Point to your head. Okay, point to your leg. Like this way. And then he said, point to yourself. He didn't know exactly what to do, but he pointed to here, like this. And Prabhupada said, yes. You know, this is the thing, is that we are possessors of the body. I myself am not the head. I own the head. It's my head. It's not I head. Or I arm, I body. So this is being explained here. And then we would say, where is your baby body? Where is the baby body? Very, young body. Where is that one? Now I have this one. It's older. It's different. Construction is different. So that's the idea. the body used to be inside of. It's gone. And dust to dust. So it's been destroyed. So the idea is, Arjuna was lamenting for having to destroy the bodies of his elders, and Krishna is saying that person who is actually the person you care about inside of that body is not going to die. They're simply going to get another body. And Prabhupada is extending that logic, and he's saying, so Arjuna should be happy that he's going to be fresh and new and strong again in his next life. So he shouldn't be lamenting for having still. So we can go back to the report. Any man who has perfect knowledge of the constitution of the individual soul, the super soul nature, both material and spiritual, is called the Buddha, or the most sober man. Such a man is never deluded by the change of bodies. The mind-body theory of oneness of the spirit soul cannot be entertained on the ground, but the spirit soul cannot be cut into pieces as a fragmental portion. Such cutting into different individual souls would make the supreme cleavable or changeable against the principle of the supreme soul being unchangeable. As confirmed in the Gita, the fragmental portions of the supreme exist eternally, sanatana, and are called shudder. That is, they have a tendency to fall down into material nature. These fragmental portions are eternally so, and even after liberation, the individual soul remains the same, fragmental. But once liberated, he lives an eternal life in bliss and knowledge which is attained with the personality of Godhead. The theory of reflection can be applied to the super soul, who is consistent in each and every individual soul and is known as the Paramatma. He is different from the individual being entity. When the sky is reflected in water, the reflections represent both the sun and the moon and the stars also. The stars can be compared to the living entities, and the sun or the moon to the supreme Lord. The individual fragmental spirit soul is represented by Arjuna, and the supreme soul is the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. They are not on the same level, as it will be apparent in the beginning of the fourth chapter. If Arjuna is on the same level as Krishna, and Krishna is not superior to Arjuna, then the relationship of instructor and instructed becomes meaningless. If both of them are deluded by the illusory energy Maya, then there is no need of one being the instructor and the other the instructed. Such instruction would be useless because in the process of Maya, no one can be an authoritative instructor. Under the circumstances, it is admitted that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord, superior in both position to the living entity, Arjuna, who is a forgetful soul, deluded mind. So this is an interesting analysis presented here. And previously, the text before this, Lord Krishna describes how the soul, he himself, Arjuna, and then all the kings on the battlefield are all eternal living entities. And in this purport, Prabhupada is describing how there is a difference between the Supreme Lord, or Paramatma, and the Jiva. So the Jiva is like us, ourselves. We find ourselves forgetful of God and the spiritual world. So, very simply, one can understand many things about the spiritual world by understanding oneself in truth. Actually. So we have a desire, we don't want to die. Practically speaking, only in the very darkest of times does somebody want to die. And that's very And that's actually happening also, which is the main reason why we have a lot of work to do, because it's completely unnatural. Everybody is trying to live. Even every bug will try to live. If you try to suppress him, squash him, or check his path, he will try to get away. So it's normal, it's natural to live. But we're forced to die. So we can understand, actually, that's not natural. To die is actually unnatural. But everybody thinks that they will die. They all want to live forever. So this is just one sign that eternality is there within the soul. It's there within the very deepest core of our being. Is this eternal nature, this called self. Then there's chit, or consciousness. Our consciousness is limited right now. Our consciousness is limited by so many factors, right? And we're very oblivious to the workings of the universe and much less of the spiritual world, which we can't even experience right now. So that's called the chit feature. The chit feature is the nature or the eternal nature of the soul as being conscious. Then comes another, or blissful feature. The blissful feature of the soul is that we experience bliss or relationships which are fully satisfying. Can you check real quick if there's a Gujarati Bhagavatam? Later. See something. You just go and get it. Oh, you took some before? That's okay. You got some? You got some? You tell me. Yeah. So, thank you for coming and bringing that. So, this blissful feature of the soul is another. And actually that can only be experienced fully, properly, authentically, originally, or most completely when we're in relation with the Supreme Soul, Paramatma, and ultimately Krishna, Sri Krishna. So the Lord, the Supreme Personality of God, the Lord Sri Krishna, must be connected with, and that is the purpose of yoga. So that yoga actually begins when one accepts a teacher. And we are not to accept a teacher who is also in mind, or else there would be no point. And Prabhupada, or rather it's presented here that when a teacher and a student are both in Maya, then their relationship becomes meaningless as instructor and instructor. So this is actually the blind leading the blind into the ditch, which Lord Maharaj speaks about. But Lord Krishna is not conditional. He's not conditioned soul. He's the supreme soul, and he understands everything in absoluteness. So, he being unharmed, he can actually bless Arjuna as the example fallen soul, and we can also be blessed by Lord Krishna's words. So, it's stated that we have to receive the mercy of Guru Krishna. Brahmanda Pramite Bhakyavan Jeev. Guru Krishna Prasadapai Bhakti Lata. So we can receive the mercy of Guru Krishna. That's only possible because the devotees of the Lord constantly endeavor to spread the Lord's glories to whomever and everywhere they go. And it's our ardent goal that we can also give 100% of our energy, time, resources for the purpose of spreading the Lord's glories everywhere and anywhere. And when we don't, when we're not at that level, right, then it's okay to feel disappointed. But that disappointment can only go as far. We can only accept that disappointment only as far as it encourages us to get back on the horse. So being discouraged is never acceptable. But we can use failure as encouragement. That's the idea, is that we have to use our emotions as encouragement for service. But it's not like we actually pretend that we're better devotees than we're not. And generally no one believes us anything. And if we live too long, we'll believe it, and then we'll move on. So, text 14, we'll read out. Mantra svarshastu mantindra, shitoshna sukadukata, adamahai nolita, ramsakrishna sumhavata. The son of Kuti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress, and their disappearance in due course, are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, and one must learn to tolerate them without being discouraged. Report. In the proper discharge of duty, one has to learn to tolerate non-permanent appearances and disappearances of happiness and distress. According to Vedic injunction, one has to take his bath early in the morning, even during the month of autumn, January and February. It is very cold at that time, but in spite of that, man who abides by the religious principles does not hesitate to take his bath. Similarly, a woman does not hesitate to book a vacation in the months of May and June, hottest part of the summer season. One has to execute his duty in spite of climactic inconveniences. Similarly, to fight is the religious principle of Kshatriyas, and although one has to fight with some friend or relative, one should not deviate from this prescribed duty. One has to follow the prescribed rules and regulations of religious principles in order to rise up to the platform of knowledge. Because by knowledge and devotion, one can only one liberate himself from the clutches of mind, illusion. The two different names of address given to Arjuna are also significant. To address him as Kaunteya signifies his great blood relations from his mother's side, and to address him as Padata signifies his greatness from his father's side. From both sides, he is supposed to have great heritage. A great heritage brings responsibility in the matter of proper discharge of duties. Therefore, he cannot avoid fighting. So, this is a type of a chiding by Krishna when he's referring to Arjuna's different names. There's a type of a chastisement or a type of a poking that is happening by the teacher to the disciple. And if one is poked in such a way, then he's very fortunate, because generally, when the spiritual master is poking, there's an opportunity to become less prideful. Just like if we have a particular fascination or obsession or proclivity of some kind, and he kind of pokes at it, then our false ego is agitated. And we're forced to admit or to reconcile our inordinate attachment towards those things which we think are ourselves. And from outside, he sees them, and then he makes comment such that it undermines it in some way. we're forced to admit, that's not who I am. That's not me. But we think it's me, and the spiritual master kind of pokes at it. In this way, Lord Sri Krishna is poking and saying, you have so much great heritage from your mother and your father. And you are actually being a coward on the battlefield. And you should learn how to tolerate the inconveniences that come with doing your duty. Not that you run away from them like a coward. You will create a great birth from your mother, great birth from your father. So then, it's interesting because then he can use the false ego to actually encourage him to the right conclusion. Which is very strange. Prabhupada once told the devotees, he said, what's the use of being American if you can't do something wonderful? And he would do it a lot. He would do it a lot. And the devotees would get fired up from America, obviously. And, this is what, if we have some false ego, we should use it for Krishna. If we're unnecessarily proud of some service, of some quality, then we should use it for Krishna. The only way to get free from falsely possessing that quality is to use it for Krishna. And then in the course of our service for Krishna, we realize actually it's all his quality. We think we're a great singer, we got a great pipe. Who gave us the body? Who gave us the body? My mom? Her mom? Such and such? Her mom? Ultimately, Krishna gave us the body. So, and then what to speak of devotional service? Nobody can do devotional service in this world without Krishna personally engaging them in that service. It's not possible. If the Maya body wants to speak the holy name, he cannot. If the Lord does not want him to, he cannot even say the name of Krishna. He will not be allowed to say the name of Krishna. And we get to say all we want. He says, go on. Change it. Do it. I bet you won't. He doesn't say that. He says, please do. And actually, Lord Chaitanya is asking, he's begging us, please, please, please. And the acharyas are begging on Lord Chaitanya's behalf. Please chant the holy name. And still, my heart is hard as a rock. And I'm being cursed. Actually, that's how I feel. I have no attraction for this movement. And I think I was sharing it the other day, but it was very inspiring to me. It was said by a devotee, a great devotee, who personally exemplified absorption in the holy name in practice, personal practice, and in preaching. He's engaging others in chanting the holy name, or doing the holy name. And this devotee is saying, don't think that you will not reach perfection through this process of chanting and dancing. Do not think you will not achieve the perfection of spiritual life, which we can understand to be fully engaged in undeviated, unmotivated devotional service. Prema. Prema bhakti. And very specifically, that prema bhakti exhibited by the residents of Vrindavan. Right? So, he says, don't think you will not get it. If you do it, don't think it will not give you the result. It will, if you do it. So I've been reflecting on that a lot. That, how much am I doing? How much am I doing? Now, right now, I'm moving. How much am I participating in these systems in my life by which I can engage in that service on a regular, frequent, regular, and eventually constant, constant frequency, constant equal. So it doesn't start all at once, but and that's why we use the system as given by Srila Prabhupada. The system which he gave for all initiated disciples is to come to morning and evening program, to chant the name. Actually, he said we should chant the name constantly. He always name and chant for all initiated disciples. He wrote it with his own hand. So, actually, this was also